Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to Kottabos Space Program, where today we're having a look at yet another wonderful mod, this time in the form of Idiot Lights, which is being made by forum user Fengist. And what this glorious little piece of work looks to add into the game is a lovely little light box which you can add to your ship, and it will give you a visual indicator of your resource levels, and I just love that. In fact, I believe we've actually looked at two other mods in the past which did something similar, but in a different way and with different resources. And I'm not entirely sure why I love these types of mods. Perhaps it's the fact that at a glance I can get some form of visual cue as to how my ship is doing at that moment. And, well, yeah, that actually does frankly intrigue me. So let's jump right on into the VAB and take a look at how this mod does it with its currently one part. Now, it is one part. I don't know if more will come in the future, but I hope it will, and I'll talk more about that momentarily. But let's grab a Mark 1 command pod, as well as a Mark 1-2 command pod to show off the one of two different visual anomalies with this mod, and then move it over and zoom in, because, well, it's kind of a small part for the time being, but it can be rescaled. More on that in a moment. And then we'll head down to Utility to take a look at the Idiot Lights, which, as you can see from the little blurb here, is so simple a daft Kerbal can't get it wrong. Which, granted, knowing some of these Kerbals, they probably could, but let's just grab it and bring it over here, and you'll notice the first of the two visual anomalies for this particular piece of work, and that's, well, it's a radial part, but it comes in sideways, which, I mean, is an easy fix. It's a minor complaint. You just gotta go boop, and there you are. It is now flush with the craft, and you're good to go. Now, as for the second visual anomaly with this, if we grab it and take it down to the Mark 1-2, you'll notice it gets absorbed by it. I don't know why this happens. I have seen this with other mod parts in the past, something about 2.5 meter parts. It seems to not always like modded radial pieces, and that seems to be the only size it does this with. I've tested it with all the 1.25 meter parts. Those all work fine. It radially attaches perfectly okay. With the larger, oh lord, what is it, 3.25 meter parts, those seem to be fine. It just seems to be a handful, not even all of them, but a handful of the 2.5 meter parts that just eat this thing. It just disappears into the abyss and you lose it. But oh well, for the time being, we'll just keep it on a 1.25 meter part, zoom in, and take a look at this thing. Now, it is quite a basic little model here, but actually has a fair amount of detail if you actually take a look at it. Each of the little bars here is a separate little element to it, where we have the box, and then the battery section is its own sort of bar in here. We have a little crevasse that separates it next with the next section, and so forth and so on all the way down. Now, of course, we have the names of the currently 4 different resources this will track, which is battery, liquid fuel, oxidizer, and monopropellant, and then the indicator lights, which tell you how much. Now, the green corresponds with the resource being above 50%. The yellow corresponds with the resource being below 50%, and the red is if it's below 25%, which, if it reaches red, you probably need to do something quick, because otherwise you're probably going to crash and burn. Well, maybe not so much burn if you're out of fuel, but you should still do something quickly. And yeah, that is how the thing basically works. Now, these lights will light up depending on that resource's percentage, but if that resource doesn't exist on the ship, the light should not actually be lit up. So say, for instance, if we didn't have any monopropellant on this ship here, the monopropellant would not be lit up. Same thing for battery, liquid fuel, oxidizer, etc. Now, there's a slight oddity with that, which I'll talk about when we're out on the launch pad momentarily, but for now, we'll leave it at that. Now, as for the size of this thing, it is quite tiny here, as you can see, and if you were flying the ship from, say, way back here, it would be kind of difficult to tell which light is which. Now, you can change this. There is a config file in the folder for this, and it does have a rescale part line, and it's basic default level, which is what we have here, is 0.1, and you can change it from anything else that you desire. So you could change it up to 0.5 and it would be 5 times bigger. And the mod maker actually designed it to be much bigger, but then made it smaller because apparently there were some issues with I believe it was the lettering lining up with things. And now that's how it gets rescaled right now. The mod maker is looking into how it plays with tweak scale, so hopefully that'll change in the future. But for the time being, you will have to manually edit a config file, and I decided to keep it at its default level for the video, of course, to show you what you'll see if you don't change it. So quite a small little part, but functional nonetheless. So let us actually open up a ship and take this thing out to the launch pad. Now I made this Idiot Lights craft here, and we'll take this out to show you how it works in the world, and you know, what sort of things you can actually you know, do with it. I think it's quite a fun little part here. Now again, quite tiny at this default size, but serviceable if you are zoomed in, and actually does look quite nice. As you can see here, we've got a good little detailing to it. Very nice on the lights. I do quite enjoy this part. But as for its functioning, let us get out our hyper edit tools and over to miscellaneous, and we'll bring down the liquid fuel to 50%, and notice when it goes there that it actually fades in between the two lights. I quite like that. Now, remember what I said earlier, we've looked at 2 similar mods in the past, and they would just do a hard cut from one light to the next. I really do like this little detail that it actually fades, and it's the same thing if we bring the oxidizer down to 25%, you'll get the fade from the yellow to the red there. It works quite nicely. I enjoy those little details. Now, as for if we lose a resource, remember what I said. If you don't have a resource on your ship, it shouldn't be lit up. But what about if you lose a resource? And this is a slight anomaly with this mod. Say, for instance, we lose all of our monopropellant. We've used it all up on a mission, and we have no intention of ever using it again, so we might want to lose these tanks to lose a little bit of weight. Well, boom, there we go. They're gone in a beautiful explosion in the background. And you'll notice the monopropellant actually goes back to green, so it kind of glitches out a little bit here. Even though we no longer have monopropellant on the miscellaneous tools over here, we no longer have monopropellant over here. Well, actually, it is still showing up here. That might be perhaps why this is still thinking that it should be green. And so it's kind of an oddity with this. I don't know if this is something that can be fixed, but since the monopropellant tanks are gone, that should not be lit up. Now, this can be fixed quite easily if you just reload the ship. So for instance, if we back out to the Space Center and then back over to our Idiot Light ship, it will actually be no longer lit up. If we turn and zoom in, there we go. So as long as the resource doesn't exist when you load the ship, it will not be lit up. If you run out of the resource, it'll just be red. If you then ditch those tanks and don't have it anymore, you'll have to reload your ship for this unlit effect to actually become a thing. So a small little oddity, but something to keep in mind. Now, what if for instance, you didn't just want to use this as a indicator for yourself? What if there were other uses for this? Well, I was kind of thinking about this while I was messing around with things, and decided, you know what, this could also be used for quite a cool tool for, say, if you like just the immersion factor, or if you're a machinima maker, for instance. You could actually use this as a panel for your Kerbals. So I made this little crappy chair test to give you an idea of other potential uses for this mod, and say if we get Jebediah out here on EVA, pop him up to the chair, and zoom in, and imagine this was a rover. Now he has his own little resource panel for him to view. Now, of course, in the base game, we can't drive or fly in first person, but if we did, we could then also use that panel ourselves to see how our resources were doing. But again, if you just like immersion factor and making things for your Kerbals, and of course if you're a machinima maker, this could be also quite a nice little tool for you to make little panels, etc. in places, and I just like the added little visual. But yeah, that's the Idiot Lights mod, a pretty simple one, only a single part, only does a few things, but I hope that it does grow more in the future. Now, like I said, I hope that more panels come into this. It's only one, but I would love to see in the future maybe other panels recording other resources. Like, say, for instance, another separate panel maybe for probes that had battery power, xenon gas, and monorepellent, and maybe one for a mining ship that was battery power and ore, or something along those lines. I think would be quite fun. But that's it for now. That's really all I can talk about. So if you would like to check out this mod for yourself, you can take a look at the link in the description as always, and I definitely say to have a look at it because it is just it's a fun little thing. And of course, I do hope you've enjoyed this episode today and that you come back for the next. But until that time, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good one.